Walter was angry. He had hoped so much that at least today, on his birthday, he would stay home, but his secretary had just called to tell him about the tax audit. Now he had to go to the office right away. While Walter was getting dressed, he thought about how unlucky he had been in life. No, he was young, healthy and rich, of course, but all this did not bring him happiness. At the age of 26, he had been successfully heading his late father's company for several years, and if he had been alive, he would have been proud of Walter. True, during his lifetime, the man did not get a lot of parental warmth. His father was a reserved and emotionally stingy person, and things were even worse with his mother. Walter was an only child in the family and was born when his father was already over 50 and his mother was barely 24. Already as an adult, and after finding out the circumstances of his parents' acquaintance, Walter was able to understand a lot of things for himself. Mr. Carter, Walter's father, was happily married for almost 30 years until he met an ambitious and beautiful girl, Veronica, who got a job at his office. She immediately assessed her career prospects in the case of an affair with the boss, who was much older than her. Veronica used her entire arsenal of charming young women to seduce, but Mr. Carter was a strong family man and did not give up for a long time. It was not until a year and a half later that they found themselves in bed together. It happened one rainy evening when Mr. Carter stayed longer than usual in the office. Veronica, seeing this, also stayed behind. It was raining outside the window, and the man offered her a ride home. The cunning seductress confessed her unrequited love and cried bitterly, and attempts to comfort the pitifully sobbing beauty turned into hot hugs and kisses. She confessed her love for him, and Mr. Carter lost his head from her hot breath, youth and beauty, and found himself with her on the couch in the study. He had forgotten that his wife and son and daughter, who were even older than Veronica, were waiting for him at home for dinner. Now only she existed for him. The wife quickly found out that Mr. Carter had a mistress and filed for divorce. The children also stopped communicating with the father and went abroad with their mother for good. Mr. Carter did not expect that things would go so far. He blamed himself for what had happened, and he was going to break up with Veronica, but she was already pregnant by then, and Mr. Carter got married for the second time, and then they were born Walter. But there was no normal family. Mr. Carter missed his ex-wife and older children, and Veronica was engaged only in herself. Walter was brought up constantly changing nannies and rapidly aging father. Mr. Carter loved his son but was ashamed of his late paternity, and over time got used to loving his son at a distance. The boy's mother lived her own interesting life, spent a lot of time abroad, not interested in the life of the child, and even often forgot to congratulate him on his birthday. To all her husband's reproaches, she defiantly waved him off. "What's the big deal? Walter has everything, and you're near him. But I'm still young and I want to live a normal life, to see the world." "Then I'm not going to pay for your whims," threw Mr. Carter angrily, trying to reason with his young wife. But Veronica was no longer that obedient mistress. Now she was a self-confident wife, and she threatened to take Walter away and make sure that Mr. Carter hardly ever saw his son. That's how it turned out that Walter, who had everything from childhood, did not get the most important thing: parental love. But Mr. Carter finally got his revenge on Veronica. When Walter came of age, the elderly father, with the help of his lawyer, bequeathed him all the property, leaving Veronica with nothing, and then filed for divorce. As soon as the woman found out, she tried to appeal to her son in the hope that he would support her. But Walter felt no love for this woman, who was a stranger to him, and refused her. Since then, they have not spoken to each other for several years. Walter grinning bitterly at the unhappy memories, got into his car and rushed to the office. But at the first intersection, he felt a bump and stopped. When he got out of the car, a middle-aged woman was already rushing toward him from the side of the car that had hit him. "Excuse me, please. I got cut off. I was so scared." "Why do I need your apologies? My new car. Do you know how much it costs?" shouted Walter out of anger. The woman looked at the man pleadingly and asked him not to call the inspector. It turned out that she had forgotten her license at home, and the insurance ran out long ago. The woman said that her name was Anna. She lived alone without a husband, with 4 children, and they were just now in the car with her. Walter was so enraged by what he heard, and all he did was yell curses at the woman. He went over to the car and looked inside. There really were children in the back seat, 2 twins about 3 years old, a boy about 6, and a school-aged girl. The woman handed Walter a piece of paper with her address, tearfully asked to realize her situation, to solve everything amicably, and she promised to reimburse all expenses gradually. "Gradually? Well, no. Bring me the money today, and to speed you up, I'll take him," sharply shouted Walter, opened the car door, and led the boy out by the hand. "Charlie, no, please, you have no right. I will report you to the police." The woman thrashed hysterically, but Walter was relentless. He reminded the woman that silence in this situation is in her own interest, warned her that he had good connections in the police, and not only, so the best thing she could do, quickly find the money. Then he gave her his card, and without giving the woman a second thought, he put the child in the car and drove away. Charlie sat quietly in the car, looking apprehensively at Walter, who, burning with anger at the whole world, angrily drove the car in the direction of the car service centre. After telling the boy a few minutes later that they would have to leave the car and continue by cab, he heard a pathetic sob. "I want to go to my mummy." "Why do you need such a mother? You can grow up and live a normal life without moms." "Okay, don't worry. I'll finish my business and take you home. I may have overreacted," Walter said less sternly. "Where were you going?" "From Daddy," answered Charlie, still sobbing. Walter was surprised because the woman claimed to be raising children without a husband. But when he tried to find out the father's address to solve the problem with him, Charlie said that his father had died and that they were on their way from the cemetery. When Walter heard this, he suddenly felt a strange pity for the child. He wanted to do something to please the boy, and leaving the car at the service, the man suggested that Charlie stop by a cafe. But the boy sobbed again and once more asked to take him to his mother. Walter tried to persuade the child, telling him what delicious cakes were made in the cafe, but Charlie refused, explaining that he was not used to eating alone, not sharing with his mother, sister and brothers. Walter was surprised by Charlie's love for his family, because he himself hadn't such feelings. "It's all nonsense," Walter muttered angrily. "In this life, every man for himself. Is your mother any good? Why didn't she even call once? So, is that how she worries about you?" The boy looked at Walter with all his eyes, but did not understand what he was saying, and asked again to take him to his mother. Walter himself did not understand what came over him, and regretted that he took the child. They stopped at a cafe, where Walter bought Charlie lots of cakes so that he could treat the whole family, and then they drove to the address left by Anna. "You know, Charlie," Walter said suddenly as they drove up to the shabby house, "it's my birthday today, and no one remembered. That's how it happens in life." The boy looked intently at Walter and turned away to the window when he saw the outline of his family home. Charlie jumped out of the car and ran as fast as he could to his mother, who had already run out to meet him. Anna hugged and kissed Charlie, said something, stroked his head, bursting into tears, and then looked at Walter. "Thank you for returning my son to me. I almost lost my mind," I called you and you didn't answer the phone." Walter looked at his phone and noticed with annoyance that it was on silent mode. And there were over 30 missed calls from Anna. Anna called him into the house to give him some of the money that she had been able to borrow from a neighbour, and told him that she was already collecting everything she could to sell to pay him back. "Mom," Charlie suddenly whispered loudly, "it's Walter's birthday today, and everyone has forgotten about this." "Well, it can't be," muttered Anna, and offered again to go into the house. "I'll put the kettle on. Honestly, we only have plain cookies for tea, but I'll open the raspberry jam. Let's join us, Walter." "Well, we actually have cakes with us," he said quietly, blushing for some reason. Anna's house was poor but very clean. The children, when they saw Charlie, rushed to him and hugged him. Walter's heart ached. He gave the cakes to Charlie so that the boy could treat everyone. Charlie thanked Walter, took the package to the kitchen, where everyone took one for himself and put the rest on a plate to treat their mother. Seeing that, Walter had a lump in his throat, and meanwhile Anna poured tea for everybody and started to tell about her family. Earlier, when her husband was alive, they lived well. They had their own apartment. He worked in a tannery, and she worked as an educator. At first, they had a daughter, Lisa, and her father loved her very much, but dreamed of a son. Then Charlie was born, followed by twins, who, although not planned, but still very much loved. And then her husband fell ill. The cause of the problem was difficult working conditions, because they often had to work with the chemicals used in the dressing of leather. Anna repeatedly asked her husband to find another job, but he did not want the family to be destitute, and at the harmful manufacturing paid more. The man was getting worse, and treatment was expensive. The husband did not want the family to go into debt because of him, but when he went to the hospital, his wife sold their apartment, bought a modest house with part of the money, and paid for the rest of the treatment. Her husband did not fully recover and died of kidney failure. The woman's world collapsed, and the family ended up in such poverty. After sitting for a while, Walter apologized to Anna for his words and behavior on the road that morning, and told her not to worry about the car. He would pay for it himself. He also left the woman some large bills to buy something delicious for the children. Anna wept and hugged Walter, wishing him happiness, congratulated him on his birthday, and promised that he would do well. Walter smiled. His soul was as calm and easy as never before. He was about to call a cab, and when he took out his phone, he saw several missed calls again, but this time from work. Calling back, he heard the anxious voice of the secretary, who asked why he was still missing. Walter promised that he would be there in 10 minutes and called a cab. Upon entering the office, Walter was surprised to see that it was empty. When he opened the cabinet door, and suddenly the music started to play, and confetti fell on him from all sides, and the office employees sang a specially prepared song. On the table, between the champagne and appetizers, was a huge cake. "Happy birthday, boss," the secretary said when the song was finished. "Sorry about our prank. There's no tax audit. It's just that you said you weren't coming today, and we've already prepared everything." Walter was touched. He in no way expected such attention to himself. Out of joy, he immediately announced that tomorrow evening he would invite everyone to the party at the restaurant. Then they all joked and laughed together for another hour, and when Walter got into a cab to go home, he saw the missed calls on his phone again. It was the number of Isabella, his ex-girlfriend he had been dating for a long time, but had broken up with 6 months ago. The reason for the breakup was in himself, and Isabella, she loved him and forgave him everything. And now she must have remembered that it was his birthday and called him herself. For the first time since the day of the breakup. All these thoughts whirled through the man's head, and he gave the cab driver Isabella's address. When she opened the door, she gasped and covered her rounded belly with her hands embarrassedly. Walter, stunned, whispered, "Isabella, please excuse me everything. This is my baby, isn't it? Mine?" "Yes," she nodded, "your son." The next day at the restaurant, celebrating the birthday with his co-workers, Walter proposed to Isabella. Before that, he stopped by Anna's house and took her children presents, food and toys, and handed the woman the keys to a brand new minivan, saying that such a big family needed a proper car. "And by the way, the insurance is taken care of too," Walter winked. "Thank you for everything," Anna whispered, weeping with happiness.